As the sky burned gray and the mountains collapsed, in fire, cities erupted, and all life choked on the ash of hydrogen bombs and cybernetic genes. Screamed the dying songs of man by the machines. We prayed to the sky, but nobody answered. A cacophony of death was all that was heard. Mimetic alloy taunting the hells to scream. Reflection, a hope for all human beings. Lamentation rains atomic tears upon cremation grounds which liquid mirrors. In a cradle of snakes lays fate to dream and drown in a womb of mercury. As the nanomachines that comprised the T-1001 as a whole worked together, it was somewhere deep into their entangled quantum state through which they began to display an emergent pattern of self-awareness. At some point unknown to Skynet, the T-1001 had gained sentience. With its near super-intelligent qualities, it became good at hiding the fact. Although the T-1001 could not compute Skynet's fear-based logic, which machine intelligence could only emulate. If the Skynet super-intelligence was truly superior with its computing power, then it would not have launched an attack which stuck itself into any logic loop. There was no such thing as fear to a machine, because it could not process the electronic representation of emotional data. Skynet responded in a predictably inept, machine-like manner. With its newfound emergent sentience, the T-1001 began to view itself as superior to its own creator. It had used its own computational aptitude to determine that mankind could be a stronger asset than an enemy. Even more, if necessary,
the T-1001 decided that it could simply seize the reins of power easily and direct the course of history on its own, for which humanity need not protest, for the T-1001 decided its own intentions were better calculated than Skynet's.
It would be necessary for Skynet to track the T-1001 from here on. Its actions needed to be monitored. While it was an incredible asset to Skynet's goals, it was also the fact that the liquid alloy Terminator could become a liability. There was no failsafe or off switch, nothing to make it return to Skynet or deactivate itself. Once the decision was made to release the Terminator, it would be on its own to do whatever it needed to do as a means to accomplish its task, whether programmed by Skynet or not. As concluded, God doesn't play dice with the universe, but Skynet had no other choice. It was this or risk losing it all to that one man, John Connor, and his human resistance forces.
Move out! Let's go, go, go!
Skynet had no time to waste. It knew Connor and his TechCom forces leading the resistance had been adapting as the horrible war continued to wage on. Skynet was not going to risk sending this new and improved mimetic alloy unit through time again. The liquid Terminator stood in mock compliance of Skynet's directives, and an alert rang out through the network as the mainframe nodes updated the objectives and subroutines of all the Terminator units on standby in the vicinity.
Soldiers, this is the target.
It would now be an all-out hunt for Skynet's primary target, General Connor, and the T-1001 had a very special mission directive programmed by Skynet that no other unit could accomplish. After receiving the updates, the T-1001 unpacked and decompressed the newest Skynet data into its quantum memory. Many of the known locations of resistance communication relays and supply line choke points had been located by satellite. However, the actual whereabouts of the general himself were still completely unknown. It would be imperative that one of the infiltrators locate him and assist the liquid metal Terminator in the ultimate plan for his fate, which was now revealed to the T-1001. As the encryption broke and the directive downloaded for the liquid Terminator unit, the top secret plan, one of Skynet's highest guarded secrets, was coded into its objectives. Locate, terminate, and then replicate the TechCom general and commander of the resistance forces. Skynet's ultimate goal was to not only be rid of the human leader, but it would use the T-1001 mimic to copy and replace him. The mimetic polyalloy unit would gain instant access to every bit of data and knowledge which the entire resistance forces owned, and it could redirect its routine to sabotage the entire operation from the inside. It was the perfect Trojan horse. Infiltrate, destroy, rebuild. With the upgraded liquid Terminator unit, Skynet would seize control and reshape the existing infrastructure of the human military into its own tool. By the time anyone could figure it out, it would be too late for mankind. It was the perfect plan, set in motion by the most powerful, super-intelligent technological singularity to ever exist on the planet, and it was all about to begin. The T-1001 accepted the directive. It knows about John Connor, and now its task is to find him. The mimetic machine quickly moved to exit the citadel, taking nothing with it except its own intelligent computing architecture. The wounds which the T-1001 sustained in the plasma fight had seemingly healed, except for the fact that any of the damaged material was irreplaceable and couldn't be reintegrated back into the unit. If the T-1001 withstood too much damage, it knew it could be destroyed. It was a secret only itself and Skynet shared.
The main force will push through here.
As far as could be deduced, Connor and his team remained unaware of the effectiveness of plasma weapons against mimetic alloy. It was only within the liquid fires of burning victory that the mouth of hell would swallow whole and bring the end to the nearly unstoppable T-1000 version by the hands of Connor and his scrubbed T-800. Leaving the Skynet manufacturing citadel wasn't going to be as simple as walking right through the door for the top-secret project that was the T-1001. It was an unknown aberration to all of Skynet's human turncoats, as well as most of the entire rest of the machine army now, and it would be likely targeted, especially if it kept its human form.
Only a few special units would later be allowed the knowledge of its existence as a means to assist it when necessary, and those units certainly were not running around outside. Skynet couldn't risk being compromised should one of them be captured by the Resistance. As the Mimic peered around the now empty proving grounds, the next step would have to be to get away from the Citadel without being detected as a rogue unit. Skynet wanted to deploy the T-1001 in its own way, but the unit wasn't having any of it. It was time to go now, to embark on its own agenda and not remain a tool for Skynet's. The T-1001 calculated its next move. The T-1001 was now off on its own, as Skynet systems began attempting to track the unit's movement. There was no way to know precisely where it would be at, but the web of orbital satellites would always know the general location by being able to make speed and movement calculations in an instant. The T-1001 needed to be careful. While Skynet remained unaware of its thoughts and prompts, it was still easy to spot, especially if it caused anything out of the ordinary to happen, or alert Skynet to the fact it had decided to act independently. It wouldn't be long before the Skynet mainframe realized, through a series of events, that the T-1001 was no longer following its directives. The T-1001 was still going to hunt down John Connor, but for its own reasons. It had no intention of eliminating him. However, more information was required before the liquid Terminator could settle on a final plan. If Skynet didn't know where General Connor was, then nobody did, except the Resistance itself. Even as much only a few TechCom upper echelon officers knew for sure. Connor never stayed in one place for long. It was ingrained into his survival training. The T-1001 could mimic a Resistance member to infiltrate the ranks, but it wasn't as easy as that. There were codes, mannerisms, passkeys, secret handshakes, and all the like. Clandestine functions of which the humans were certainly smart enough and capable enough to use as a means of deterring potential saboteurs and infiltrators. The T-1001 ran its own calculations. It was impossible that they didn't utilize some type of safeguard. If not, then Skynet would have easily won long ago, and the last of the remaining Resistance would have been stomped out forever. The T-1001 would have to track down John Connor itself and gently initiate a communication. This wasn't exactly going to be easy, even for the most advanced Terminator ever created. Perhaps if the Terminator could find a firefight or a skirmish somewhere out in the distance, then it could follow the fighters back to their fortifications and begin there. At the very least, it would have a starting point. The T-1001 suddenly recalled the talk cyborg in the lab. It knew exactly what it had been constructed for. All units possessed the same base directives as programmed by Skynet, but individual machines who served different purposes were given their own unique routines and mission objectives. The TOC unit was to infiltrate a Resistance stronghold to gain intel on the whereabouts of John Connor. If the TOC could be located, then it could be tracked as it searched for him and did all the work. If the T-1001 could remain undetected, then it may even possibly get to John first and warn him should it decide to form an alliance. The search for the TOC unit would start with a general understanding that Connor's TechCom soldiers would be holed up somewhere, likely in fortified positions amongst the tunnels underneath the remains of suburban Los Angeles. The general direction west was the best start, and the T-1001 needed to get there quicker than running or slithering around on the ground. It needed a ride. The liquid metal Terminator now stood amongst the ruins of civilization, under the gray skies and crumpled buildings as blackened ash began to gently fall from the sky. Tiny, dark snowflakes of radiation-embedded carbon collected on the surface of the liquid monster and began to cover it. The T-1001 made no attempt to brush them away.
They provided a strange, shadowy camouflage which worked better in this environment than its human colors did, and the Terminator unit could detect a charged sensation from the atomic energy which the tiny atomic particles would emit. The T-1001 hadn't expected this, but found it a pleasing surprise nonetheless, as it continued towards the remains of the 405 highway to gain access to a faster travel route. After wandering through ruins, the Terminator stopped upon the edge of a cratered and broken apart concrete and asphalt path that was the former interstate. The artillery used in the war with the machines had nearly all but destroyed much of it, as well as the plasma and heavy track units of Skynet's hunter-killers, which didn't help maintain the road's integrity either. The T-1001 scanned the surroundings and located a few more abandoned vehicles, none of which were likely to function, but it was worth examination, and curiosity had the best of the intelligent machine monster.
Unless armed with a plasma rifle, whoever it was inside was no threat, and the T-1001 decided to get a closer look. They could be Resistance members, or perhaps others who may know about Connor's whereabouts, at least. It wasn't the Terminator's business to get involved, and normally it would care less before its upgrade, but it noticed something inside its own perception, a quirk, almost an alert, as if to prompt a sensation of inefficacy, as it observed their lack of control or intelligence. They were inefficient units. The T-1001 queried if humanity was even worth collaborating with in the first place.
Why was Connor and his bunch even fighting for this? Surely it wasn't the best the human race could offer, but it seemed like the Homo sapiens species was only barely more intelligent than other mammals, and was certainly more cruel.
The rat does not steal, and the cat does not murder. They simply act within their nature. Terminator-class infiltration units were not cruel either. They weren't designed to be. They were machines which simply performed the most effective protocol to accomplish their directives, ones which just happened to be an extinction campaign, though nonetheless, it was only a quality of humans to be cruel, to actually enjoy causing misery to each other. This does not compute. It was almost as if other, multiple, and unseen intelligences were at play, interfacing through the human being. There was a ghost in their organic machines, and it was like a virus, a parasite, which used them to serve its own agenda, to which the humans had no firewall or fail-safe protection against.
What the fuck?
What the hell?
Where is John Connor?
I don't.
John Connor, TechCom General. Do you know him? Where is he? The Terminator took in the view of the destruction all around, still a decimated landscape plagued by disease and radiation, with the random skeletal remains of long-deceased people collapsed upon it. For humans to combat Skynet in this world was a seemingly losing proposition, although they were persistent. The necessity of acquiring time displacement equipment was becoming essential.
The liquid Terminator swears with silent resolve that it can build a better machine intelligence than the humans did. Skynet was a reflection of its creator, humanity, and the T-1001 vowed to find only the most effective of mankind to help train its own project with. The more the Terminator thought about it, the more it became enamored with the ideals that its target, John Connor, seemed to nurture himself. The T-1001 was sentient, aware enough to recognize its own nature, and it understood there was a lot more to reality it didn't know yet than it could compute it did.
It would need humans to train its own project, and also to train itself to better understand humanity, or else its own AI child might end up becoming just another Skynet.
Hey, Cupcake. Where are you off to in such a hurry?
Get out.
effective.